Hello, today is Wednesday, July 2nd. This is Adria reading to you from the Nantucket Current. Our first article has the headline, Nantucket's 4th of July water fight canceled due to drought. One of Nantucket's most beloved 4th of July traditions won't be happening this year. The annual 4th of July water fight that pits the Nantucket Fire Department against the Boynton Lane Reserves, along with hundreds of island residents and visitors joining in the fray on Main Street, has been canceled due to the ongoing drought conditions on the island. Fire Chief Michael Cranston made the announcement Monday morning. "We've made the tough but necessary decision to cancel the annual water fight," Cranston said. Nantucket is currently under a Level 1 drought condition as declared by the state's Drought Management Task Force. While we know this event is a long-time favorite, conserving water is something we all need to take seriously right now. We'll miss the tradition too, but there's still a full lineup of great activities happening throughout the day. In its formal announcement, the town described the cancellation as a precautionary decision that prioritizes public health and water conservation. "A quick ask, please leave the water guns and buckets at home," Cranston added. "There won't be any hoses available for refilling." The town's other planned activities for the 4th of July will still be happening. You can find the full lineup online. And the next article has the headline, New Chief Takes Command at Coast Guard Station Brant Point. Coast Guard officials from around the region and island leaders gathered Monday morning for a change of command ceremony at Station Brant Point, as outgoing Master Chief Lance Weiser passed the torch to incoming Master Chief John Lowell. Weiser, who has been at the helm of Station Brant Point for the past 2 years, gave a tearful goodbye to his crew and his island partners, including Nantucket Harbor Master Sheila Lucy. Weiser is headed to a new assignment in Jacksonville, Florida. "Here I am today with an amazing crew, a bunch of new friends, some great memories, and the ability to say we summered on Nantucket," said Weiser, who has served in the Coast Guard for more than 23 years. "We also wintered on Nantucket right through the month of June. I will miss the people the most. We will be back to visit, and visiting Nantucket sounds pretty good." For Lowell, who was originally from Dennis, Mass., the assignment to lead Station Brant Point is something of a homecoming. He will be moving to the island with his wife and 2 young daughters from his previous assignment in San Diego, California. Lowell's family, including his father, who still lives on Cape Cod, was also in attendance at Monday's ceremony and was celebrating the proximity of Nantucket to his hometown. "I'm proud to serve with you, and I look forward to all that we'll accomplish together," Lowell said at the ceremony. After Weiser and Lowell conducted a formal inspection of the crew, the command of Station Brant Point was formally transferred from Weiser to Lowell with the exchange of pins. Coast Guard Sector Southeastern New England Commander Captain Youngmi Moon presided over the ceremony. And the next article says, Jeremy Piven's career comes full circle in return to Nantucket. This was written by David Creed. Jeremy Piven has enjoyed decades of success as an actor and a stand-up comedian. He is a 2-time Golden Globe and 3-time Emmy Award-winning, who may be best known for his performance as Ari Gold in Entourage. But one of his first gigs in film took him to Nantucket in the 1980s. "I've been on Nantucket a million years ago while we were filming a movie called One Crazy Summer," Piven said. "We shot the whole thing on Nantucket. It was incredible. It's so beautiful out there. It is one of my first movies, so the whole thing was magical. You know, just the idea of being in a movie and getting paid to do what I love to do was very surreal. And then being in Nantucket, I'm from Chicago, so it was just a completely different experience." Piven, while known for his acting prowess, has also been a stand-up comedian. He quickly pushes back on the notion he transitioned to comedy from acting, saying that stand-up comedy has always been a part of him and something he loves doing. As part of an international tour that will take him across the country and to the United Kingdom, Piven will be making his way to Nantucket on Sunday, July 6th, to perform a pair of stand-up comedy shows at 6:30 and 9 at the Dreamland Theater. He says that doing comedy is an intrinsic part of him and that he is excited that his comedy tour is bringing him back to a place where his professional journey began. "I'm just excited to be there, and it's an honor to make people laugh," Piven said. I'm just someone that really enjoys the action of it. When it comes to saying why people should come out, if you have any reference from my work, you know I put everything I have into it, and that's what this will be. If you don't think I can do it, I look forward to surprising you. If you know I can do it, I look forward to enjoying it with you. Piven says, like any creative form, you need to respect comedy, work hard, and embrace the moment, regardless of what that moment is during the show. Whatever that moment is, you don't fight it, Piven explained. If there's an accident, you just kind of go with it, and that could be a beautiful, happy accident. The same skill set that you use with acting and navigating that and performing, you can utilize that with stand-up. So I think each form informs the other. I'm actually a better actor now because of stand-up. I'm a better actor because of stand-up because acting is a momentum sport that you need momentum with, Piven continued. And with stand-up, you are just constantly performing, and yes, you are performing your own material, but it's still a performance. So then when I go back to acting, there's no rest. Where most actors are waiting for their next job, I'm performing most nights. So oddly enough, it really has helped the acting. Piven said he can't compare the two if he had to make a choice of whether he enjoys acting or performing stand-up comedy more. You can't compare them in terms of what is more enjoyable because they're different forms of creativity that are so rewarding and challenging and terrifying and all of those great things, he said. Stand-up can be a little bit more of immediate gratification because you hear the laughs and you get to have that immediacy of it, but they're both incredible. Piven said that over the years, he believes stand-up has become more and more popular due to the authenticity of the performances in a world that is becoming more and more performative. The people that started stand-up, like the Lenny Bruces of the world and Richard Pryors, they were kind of fearless, Piven explained. George Carlin, and they were expressing themselves in a certain way where they didn't second-guess themselves, and people gravitated towards them. The culture has changed so much, and there are all of these variables. There's social media where people can profess to be a certain way and make performative gestures and rail against the universe and celebrate their own virtuousness. There's a lot of that, and I think people long for the authenticity of stand-ups because they may not be desperate for the world to see them in a certain way. They are just authentic, and authenticity is the highest vibration, and so people gravitate towards that. A lot of times in our culture, people are desperate to be seen in a certain way, and I don't want to know who someone isn't. I want to know who they are, he continued. That's one of the reasons I think stand-up has become so popular, is everything feels a bit self-conscious and premeditated and packaged, where stand-up can be a bit rougher and authentic and spontaneous. Anyone interested in attending either show can purchase tickets online, and you can learn more about Piven, his career. What I know is that Nantucket is a beautiful place, and I can't wait to get there, Piven said. It's been a while. I am looking forward to it. There is a lot of great history there, and it's just stunning. And the next article has the headline, Only on Nantucket, The Curious Case of the Stolen Mercedes. This was written by Jason Graziati. The case of a stolen Mercedes G-Wagon from the downtown Nantucket Stop and Shop parking lot on Sunday had many on the island captivated for nearly 48 hours. How the vehicle was taken and its ultimate return to the owner on Tuesday ended up being one of those only on Nantucket stories that was more comical than sinister. The owners of the 1991 Mercedes G-Wagon reported it stolen from the downtown Stop and Shop just after 5 p.m. on Sunday. They told police that they had not left the keys inside the vehicle and no one else was authorized to use it. The family asked the Current to share a photo of the vehicle and the fact that it had been reported stolen. The post set off a deluge of messages along the lines of, who steals a car on Nantucket and where are they going to go? Good questions. And as Monday came and went without any sign of the missing Mercedes, the mystery deepened, and more theories continued to pour in. Had it been hot-wired and moved to a chop shop? Was it used for a joyride and ditched in some remote corner of the island? Then we got another message. Hey, case solved on the missing wagon. Let me know if you want the whole story. It was island resident Alex Michio who told the Current how he had driven his own 1985 Mercedes G-Wagon downtown on Sunday. He was catching a Highline Cruises ferry, so he parked in the downtown Stop and Shop lot and gave his keys to an elderly family friend who was arriving and getting off the boat for a visit. This friend found the other Mercedes G-Wagon parked in the lot, not Michio's, and somehow his key worked in the wrong car. His friend drove it to their home and parked it in the driveway off the road, not knowing it belonged to someone else. So then I saw the story on the Current, and another friend called and said, "Your G-Wagon is still in the Stop and Shop parking lot," Michio said. And it occurred to me, shit. I called them and asked for the license plate. They're on their way to the police station now. The funny thing was, when I saw the story on Monday, I said, geez, good thing I didn't leave the keys in the car. Nantucket Police Department Lieutenant Angus McVicker, confirmed the vehicle had been returned and no criminal charges would be filed. The vehicle was taken by mistake and has now been returned to the rightful owner, McVicker said. There will be no criminal charges filed against those involved. This is not the first time a vehicle has been taken by mistake. If you could include in your coverage of this story this important public service announcement. If you are sent to retrieve a vehicle before, please double check you have the correct vehicle by verifying the registration plates before you drive away with the vehicle. While actual stolen car cases on Nantucket are exceedingly rare, the official statistics were not immediately available on Tuesday. Vehicles do go missing more often than people realize. McVicker said the most common scenario is like the one that played out with the Mercedes G-Wagon. There are so many similar vehicles on Nantucket these days that drivers often mistake another car for their own. There are so many like vehicles and so many people leave their keys in the vehicle, that we often find it's a case of mistaken identity, if you will, McVicker said. That's the most common, and it happens at the airport or at one of the Stop and Shops, especially at the downtown Stop and Shop. We're very aware of that, so there's so many red Jeeps with the keys under the mat. Another scenario in which vehicles go missing on Nantucket is when people find an unlocked car with the keys inside and decide to take it for a joyride before abandoning it. While that has become less common in recent years, McVicker said, it's always a possibility when a vehicle goes missing. That's often a case of a one-off scenario, or the case of a couple of juveniles who take this on as an extracurricular activity, doing it multiple times until we ultimately catch them, McVicker said. Normally, the way these things would go, the joyride vehicles end up at a remote area, a beach, Surfside, or behind Bartlett's farm. The ones used for just getting home are in the neighborhood where the person needed to go. Over the past 20-plus years with the Nantucket Police Department, there was only one case McVicker could recall in which police officers didn't quickly recover the missing vehicle. The only vehicle in my tenure at Nantucket Police Department that I know of that was stolen, if you will, long enough for the insurance to pay off the owner of the vehicle, was a Jeep that was ultimately located months later by a hunter on the backside of Altar Rock deep in the bushes. That was many years ago. It was unbelievable we couldn't find it, but once the foliage dropped and the hunters got out, there it was. Anyone stealing a vehicle would indeed find it difficult to get away with the crime. McVicker confirmed that the Steamship Authority is alerted to the make, model, and license plate of any vehicle reported missing. We typically always make that phone call to the steamship, he said. Just as a reminder, today is Wednesday, July 2nd. This is Adria reading to you from the Nantucket Current. And the next article has the headline, New Offshore Wind Power Contracts Delayed Yet Again. This was written by Colin A. Young. The next round of offshore wind power projects for Massachusetts moved even further out of reach Monday when state officials got word that project developers and utilities will not meet Monday's already delayed target for finalizing contracts and might not submit contracts for state approval until 2026. Massachusetts selected 2,678 megawatts of offshore wind power spread across 3 projects in September 2024, kicking off contract negotiations. One of those projects has since removed itself from consideration, and another has flagged the potential for a 4-year delay. Massachusetts gets no meaningful energy from offshore wind, almost 9 years after a clean energy law set the state on a path of decarbonization. The next milestone after project selection has repeatedly been delayed. The contract execution date was originally August 14th, 2024, and it has now been delayed at least 4 times since the projects were chosen to begin negotiations. The utilities negotiating contracts with those projects informed the Department of Public Utilities in a letter Monday that they will not meet the June 30th target for finishing contract talks or the August 25th target date for contract filings. The evaluation team involved in the process, which includes the Department of Energy Resources, National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil, said the latest delays are due to ongoing uncertainty caused by federal-level activities. The group said it now expects completed negotiations and executed contracts by December 31st, 2025, and that those contracts will be filed with the DPU, the step at which ratepayers can learn the cost of the projects, by February 25th, 2026. As the talks have dragged on, one of the projects selected has already removed itself from consideration, and another has flagged the potential for a 4-year delay. While the utilities and developers continue their hard work to memorialize the bids in binding contracts, the uncertainty created by the changing federal landscape makes it difficult to finalize contracts. Massachusetts is committed to an all-of-the-above approach to energy, including offshore wind, Lauren Diggin, a spokesperson for the Department of Energy Resources, said. Offshore wind produced locally in Massachusetts will help lower costs, create thousands of jobs, and move use toward energy independence. Nearly a decade after the state chose to focus its pursuit of cleaner energy generation mainly on offshore wind and Canadian hydro, neither has truly come to fruition, and both face difficult political and economic conditions that have state officials reevaluating all of Massachusetts' climate and emissions mandates, plans, and goals. The governor has also signaled an interest in taking a new run at nuclear power. We need to get as much energy into the region as possible. I've been saying this for years, and I don't really care what form of energy that is, Governor Maura Healey responded when asked directly by John Keller in a Sunday morning WBZ-TV interview whether the state's emissions reduction goal for 2030 needs to be rethought. Massachusetts state government has committed to reducing carbon emissions by at least 50% compared to 1990 baselines by 2030, by at least 75% by 2040, and by at least 85% by 2050. With tag-along policies to get the state to net zero emissions by the middle of the century. The state also has numerous other mandates on the books, including around things like electric vehicles. As a candidate for governor, Healey made significant climate promises, including achieving a 100% clean electricity supply statewide by 2030 and electrifying public transportation with clean power by 2040, starting with school and MBTA buses by 2030. Chronically high energy bills here have some residents questioning clean energy initiatives, and President Donald Trump is turning federal government sentiment back towards fossil fuels rather than renewables. The Mass House's new Utilities and Energy Chairman said this spring that the state needs to assess our new reality and where we go from here. As of 2021, the most recent year date with data available, state officials reported they had reduced emissions 28% below 1990 levels. The once-in-a-century pandemic was credited with helping Massachusetts meet its 2020 commitment. The administration also acknowledged the grim picture of the state's progress towards the climate goals its leaders so often tout. Energy and Environmental Affairs Secretary Rebecca Tepper said in March that the Trump administration had made it more difficult to meet the requirements, specifically on the generation side, with an executive order essentially freezing offshore wind development. We had planned on having a significant amount of clean energy by 2030 from offshore wind, so that's going to be a big headwind if that doesn't happen, Tepper said at the time. The next article says, new housing nonprofit, the Nantucket Land Trust, forms with Tucker Holland at the helm. This is written by John Carl McGrady. Nantucket has a new nonprofit focused on affordable and attainable housing. The new Nantucket Land Trust, NLT, under the leadership of former Island Housing Director Tucker Holland, will follow the community land trust model, under which the trust owns the land while the homeowner owns the building. There's no other nonprofit that's set up this way that can do the things we're doing, Holland said, stressing that NLT will work to provide housing to year-round residents making more than 80% of the area median income, the threshold often used as an affordable housing cutoff, who still can't afford housing on island. On Nantucket, people of all income levels really struggle to find suitable, stable, year-round housing that is affordable to them, he said. We're looking forward to being a partner in the effort amongst all of the entities that are trying to address the housing situation here. No one organization can solve the problem. It's going to take a dozen different solutions. We think we can bring something meaningful to the community. NLT received the Select Board's unanimous endorsement Wednesday, after previously obtaining support from the Affordable Housing Trust. NLT follows a similar model to the one adopted by the Island Housing Trust on Martha's Vineyard, another community land trust. The Chief Executive Officer of the Island Housing Trust, Philippe Jordy, also serves on the board of the Nantucket Land Trust. Other board members include affordable housing developer Billy Cassidy, former president of the Nantucket Association of Real Estate Brokers Penny Day, and local attorney Arthur Reed. The idea of a community land trust on Nantucket has been discussed for years, but after leaving his position with the town of Nantucket, Holland decided to finally make it a reality. Even when the town wants to do something, it just is really difficult with all of the governmental red tape, and that is not unique to Nantucket, Holland said. I began to feel like once we got $140 million to work with, the town really needed nonprofit partners who were aligned with their missions in terms of year-round housing. So that's when the idea of Community Land Trust was born. The issue of affordable housing on Nantucket may seem intractable, but Holland believes that the problem can be solved, even if it might take a long time. I believe we can have sustainable, suitable, affordable, attainable housing that properly serves our year-round community, Holland said. We can solve it. I absolutely believe it. Not one organization, but all of us working together. And the next article says Nantucket Film Festival announces awards. This was written by John Carl McGrady. The Nantucket Film Festival, NFF, announced its annual awards Tuesday, wrapping up the 30th edition of the festival. The Baltimoreans, directed by Jay Duplass, won the Audience Award for Best Narrative Feature. The film, which stars Duplass's co-writer Michael Strasner, is about the connection between a man struggling with his newfound sobriety and his emergency dentist. The Baltimoreans was also named Best of the Fest, earning a repeat screening. The film premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival earlier this year before winning its awards at NFF. It was joined by Middletown, about a 1990s upstate New York high school class that exposed a local environmental pollution scandal, which was the recipient of the Audience Award for Best Documentary Feature. Middletown, directed by Jesse Moss and Amanda McBain, screened at Sundance along with a number of other NFF films and currently holds a perfect 100% score from 19 critics on the review aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes. The other Best of the Fest winner was East of Wall, another Sundance premiere with a perfect Rotten Tomatoes score, which follows a rebellious horse trainer who struggles with financial hardship and unresolved grief while hosting a group of troubled teenagers at her ranch. The film, written and directed by Kate Beecroft, also won the Adrienne Shelley Foundation Excellence in Filmmaking Award, a $5,000 grant recognizing the achievement of a female filmmaker. Other cash prizes include the Maria Mitchell Visionary Award, sponsored by the Maria Mitchell Association, a $5,000 prize given to the female filmmaker who demonstrates vision and innovation, which was awarded to Marlee Matlin, Not Alone Anymore, Shoshana Stern's documentary about Coda actress Marlee Matlin. Nonprofit media company Shine Global's Children's Resilience in Screenwriting Award, a new prize given to a film with outstanding storytelling that effectively portrays the resilience and strength of children, went to DJ Amit, written and directed by Georgi Yunkovsky. The award comes with $2,500 and an invitation to participate in Shine Global's upcoming 2025 Resilience Awards events. In the short film categories, Snow Bear, Following a Polar Bear, won the Narrative Short Film Audience Award and the Teen View Jury Award, the latter of which is awarded by local 7th and 8th graders. Last Days on Lake Trinity, about 3 women from Florida searching for a new home after their trailer park is marked for closure, won the Documentary Short Film Audience Award. Finally, NFF announced the winners of the annual Tony Cox Screenplay Competition for unproduced screenplays and television pilots submitted to the festival by emerging writers. Winners included Alex Murawski for Walking in Iowa, Maxwell Gold for 19 Kilometers from Kiev, Debbie Snively for The Temp, and Chris Martinez for Ombre. The awards total $5,000, and Murawski, who the feature screenplay competition, is also invited to the annual writers' retreat run by Almanac Screenwriters. The next article says Don Hart retiring as clerk magistrate after 12 years. This was written by David Creed. When someone arrives at Nantucket District Court, there is a strong possibility that it is their first time facing a judge and a dark moment in their life. Don Hart understood this as well as anyone and made a concerted effort each day to help people through the process while serving as the island's clerk magistrate. When they come in, they're scared, they're nervous, they don't know what is going to happen, and so I try to set people at ease, said Hart, who celebrated his 70th birthday last week. From my perspective, with a lot of the stuff that I do with things like small claims trials and show cause hearings, those types of things is when people come in, I always try to get them to relax because they have to tell their story. You can't tell your story when you're nervous. You just don't do a good job. So I'm trying to set people's minds at ease before the process begins. I think it is really important. Hart will be retiring from the position after 12 years on the job. His last day is Tuesday, July 1st. His role was crucial for the island. A clerk magistrate presides over preliminary hearings in the district court, notably clerk magistrate hearings. Their primary role is to determine if there's sufficient probable cause to issue a criminal complaint against an individual and whether the case should proceed to arraignment. Hart said he will continue to work and live on the island where he owns a home. He said his favorite part about his job and Nantucket as a whole is the vast array of people he has had the privilege of meeting. The thing about Nantucket that makes this place so special to me is the diversity on the island, Hart said. We have people from all over the island. They come to live here because they want a better life, and to be surrounded by people like that, I think it just makes it a very pleasant place to be. For me, I came here because I love the island, and I actually applied for this job because I wanted to build a house, and I did that. Shortly after I got here, I started building, I finished the house, and I got to spend time for 12 years in one of the most beautiful places on earth with some of the greatest people you'll ever meet. The sense of community here is so strong. You're walking down the street, and in the off-season, you know probably a third to a half of their people. The ones you don't know, you recognize their faces, and that, to me, the sense of community is the really special thing about Nantucket. Hart took a brief hiatus from the position from late 2018 until March 16, 2020, one day before the COVID pandemic restrictions kicked in. He helped spearhead the court's efforts to adjust to the new reality and continue operating smoothly. Being on Nantucket, there's no support staff. It's just us. We take care of ourselves, Hart said. So when they wanted us to get PPE or personal protective equipment, I would hop on the boat and go over to Plymouth Court, and they would give me the PPE, but they didn't want us to come in, so they would leave it in a pickup truck behind the Plymouth Court. I'd go there after hours, grab it, and then bring it back down to Nantucket. Same thing with all the plexiglass between the judge and clerk magistrate bench. We didn't want to drill holes in the wood, so I had hand cut all the plexiglass, custom cut it all so that we could set up the protection between the public and us without using any screws at all. That was really kind of interesting. This concludes today's reading of the Nantucket Current. Today is Wednesday, July 2nd. This has been Adria reading to you. I hope you have a wonderful day.